Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How is everyone? Why is everyone so scattered? Everyone's just spread out. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa afdalus salat wa taslim ala Sayyid al-Anbiya wal Mursaleen. سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم المصطفى الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما والحمد لله على كل حال سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت الأليم الحكيم اللهم إني أعوذ بك أن أدل أو أدل أو أزل أو أزل أو أذلم أو أذلم أو يجحل علي. All right, so alhamdulillah, my name is Tabari Zahir. I am the founder of the Lamps of Light Project. The Lamps of Light Project, we have a table outside. And what we specialize in is helping Muslims with their mental health and addictions, helping Muslims overcome addictions. Many times when I say we help Muslims overcome addictions, people think that I'm only talking about drugs and alcohol. That's not the case. As a matter of fact, the number one addiction amongst Muslims right now is actually pornography. It is not drugs and alcohol. If you can think about like one of the most noblest thing that a person can do is to free the slave. All right, this is one of the things that that the Quran commands, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he commanded. This is a noble deed. But in our times, we are not freeing slaves from human beings. We are freeing slaves from their desires. Okay, and this is very important to understand. And those of us who are like in positions of leadership, or we're in positions of teaching the people, conveying information to the people, if you don't understand this, your effectiveness is going to be diminished. Your effectiveness is going to be diminished. But inshallah, we'll get into that in a second. So another thing that we do is, like I said, we're at the Lamps of Light Project. Alhamdulillah, we have an outpatient clinic in Riverside, California. It's about 3,000 square feet. We have 3 therapists on staff. We have certified peer specialists to help walk alongside people who are, trying to overcome themselves many times. That's really what's happening. I'm also the Muslim chaplain at UCLA. So and we have about 1,000 Muslim students on campus, and that's from the chancellor. This is what the chancellor told me to my face. He said there's about 1,000 Muslim students on campus, and so I'm not guessing about this. I'm not guessing about the problems that we have in our community. If I have 40 Muslim students that come to me and say, listen, I'm struggling with pornography, in reality, it's probably more like 300 or 400, all right? Because those other 250 they just haven't hit rock bottom yet. They're not aware that they need help just yet. They don't know how devastating some of these habits can be. And it doesn't have to be pornography. It can be online gambling. It can be gaming. It can be shopping. There are a lot of behavioral addictions that people get caught up in besides the chemical addictions as in drugs and alcohol. I'm also a regular khatib. I gave the khutbah today at ISOC, Masjid al-Rahman in Orange County. And, I'm in those circles where the imams are telling me what the problems are, and they're looking for solutions. And addictions amongst the Muslim population is it's very high. It's very high. Don't think otherwise. It's very high. So quick quiz. Do you guys know what is the number one country that consumes pornography? The number one country that consumes pornography. Before I start the lecture, anybody take a guess? Huh? Saudi? Not quite. Right? So actually, alhamdulillah, the first country is actually India. They consume more pornography than any other country in the world. But right after India is a Muslim country. Their neighbor, Pakistan. Okay? Don't think that Muslims are immune to this. All right? And then the next 3 or 4 countries are Muslim countries. All right? So please, if you haven't done the research on this, don't tell me that the Muslims don't have a problem with this. So inshallah, that's the reason why I try to shape my talks around, like reforming the self, overcoming the evil parts of ourselves, because that's how we're going to make it through our times. That's how we're going to make it. Look at this, mashallah, this big, beautiful building that we have here, right? What's going to happen in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, if the youth don't keep paying the bills here? What's going to happen to this masjid? If this masjid cannot solve the problems of the youth, what's going to happen here? You'll be selling the building. You'll be selling the land. Muslims right now are buying churches all across the country right now. They're buying churches because they are not able to meet the needs of their youth. The youth are not interested. They're not interested in propagating the church, the message of the church anymore. They're not interested in it. Don't think that can't happen to us. It can. So we have to be very creative about how we go about solving these problems. Like helping people to deal with themselves. We have to be very, very creative. We have to be innovative. We have to almost be genius about how we do this. So I'm going to start off by saying that in the hadith, there's a hadith recorded by Imam Jalaluddin Suyuti, Ibn Asakir, and others, I believe Imam al-Bayhaqi, that Rasulullah, that Abu Dar, radiallahu an, Abu Dar, he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the suhuf of Ibrahim, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, the scrolls that were given to Nabi Ibrahim, because this is mentioned in the Quran, suhuf Ibrahim wa Musa. So Abu Dar radiallahu an, he wanted to know, what was in these scrolls? It was revelation and wisdom, of course, but how did it show up? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him a long, exposition on what was in those scrolls of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. But the one that I want to focus on is this, because this is what pertains to us. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that in the scroll of Nabi Ibrahim was the intelligent person. As long as his intelligence has not been lost, he must have insight into his epoch. He must have insight into his time. He has to understand the time that he's in. And then after that, he begins to occupy himself with his affair. Okay, so 2 things that's mentioned here. Understand the time, and then move out to do what it is that you need to do. Because if you try to move out without understanding the time, you might not reach your objective, or worse, you might end up hurting people. So if I were to ask you, our time, what is our time characterized by? What would you say? Our time, the time that we live in. When you think about human beings, when you think about modernity, when you think about what we have access to, what would you say our time is characterized by? Technology. Absolutely correct. What does technology facilitate? I'm sorry? Information exchange. This is true. Okay, so let me say it to you like this. You're absolutely correct. But that's the vast majority of technology that's being used, especially the internet. 60% of users use the internet for pornography. So it's communication, but it's the wrong kind of communication. All right? 60% of the users worldwide are using it to satisfy their desires. Okay? So I would say that it's instant gratification. Instant gratification. And even if you're like, oh, I don't use the internet to satisfy my nafs, I guarantee you somehow you're covered in its dust. Even if you're not doing something wrong, we still indulge in the instant gratification. Is there anybody in this room, raise your hand if you have not ordered something from Amazon? If you have not ordered something from Amazon. Right. Raise your hand if you have not ordered food using your phone or your computer. Right. If you want to order a pizza, it'll be here in 20 minutes. That's a type of instant gratification. If you want, to order a movie, it'll be on your phone in 3 minutes. Go to Amazon, you buy it, and you can watch it instantly. That has never happened before in human history. Never. Whatever you want, we want it right now. If you order something from Amazon and it doesn't come today or tomorrow, you're going to be like, hey, Amazon, where's my package? Where's my package? And that's just where things are. That's just where we are. So I would say, after doing the research and understanding the time, I would say we are living in a time of instant gratification. There's going to be casualties. This is what you need to understand. Instant gratification, it leads to excessive appetites. Excessive appetites leads to addictions. That's how it works. Instant gratification. If we don't have the power to have delayed gratification, if we don't have the power to say, I'll wait until tomorrow, I'll wait until next week, I'll wait until next year, what happens is you begin to have excessive appetites. You want it now, whatever it is. Even if it's something good, you want it now. We get in the habit of wanting it right now, right now, right now, right now, right now. And then if this is at the level of the nafs, if it's nafsani, then what happens is this person has, this excessive nafsani impulse, or nafs al-ammara bisu, the command, this lower commanding self. And then this leads to different types of addictions. All right? It leads to different types of addictions. So that is the time that we live in. And we want we want communication instantly. We're used to it. If you send somebody a message and they don't send you back a message for 20 minutes, you're like, hey, I just sent you a message. What happened? When and they live on a different part of the world. They live in a different part of the world, but still like, hey, why didn't you answer my message? What's going on? When there used to be a 2-month or 3-month period before you would hear back from that person. So that's the time that we're living in. So if we want to renew ourselves, we want to overcome ourselves, we want to inculcate new habits, then we have to understand the human condition. We have to understand the human condition. If you ask yourself, like in our time, what does this lead to? In this instant gratification, we want to be satisfied all the time, and we don't be satisfied right now. All right? What will happen is that the person will have a loss of spirituality. There'll be this loss of spirituality. There'll be a loss of positive productivity. In other words, positive productivity leads to spiritual progress. Just because somebody is busy does not mean that they're productive. They have good, positive production. Just because somebody is busy. Somebody can be busy playing on their phone, playing games on their phone, but this is not productive. It doesn't lead to more taqwa. It doesn't lead to states of ihsan. It doesn't lead to drawing near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So all it leads to is becoming addicted to using the phone, using the games. All right? And so those of us, those of us, if you're parents, or you're caregivers, someone that you're taking care of, especially youth, um, you have to ask yourself, first of all, I want you to have this lens of compassion. The way that you view people has to be through a lens of compassion. All right? Because they didn't ask for these times. And most of us in the Muslim community, we're not offering alternatives. Most masjids, most community centers, whatever, very few, there's a few of them that are starting to. You know, like for example, Rahma Center. You guys know Rahma Center in Lake Forest, right? Before they even opened the masjid, the first thing that they did was hire 14 therapists. They understand the times. They understand the times that we're living in. They understand that people have problems, and if you want people to flourish spiritually, you have to solve their problems. And this is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would always do. He didn't just walk around preaching Quran and Sunnah, and didn't solve people's problems. He would solve people's problems first, starting with food and drink and marital problems, things like that, because those things become obstacles. All right? And if you say, well, why would a person want to be shackled to some detrimental behavior? Why? What you have to understand is that there's a rapid increase in self-regard. To give you an example, if you send your child to public school, his name is Muhammad, her name is Amina, and then the kids at school start picking on her, putting her down because she wears the hijab, or putting him down because because of his name, or the country that he comes from, or the food that he eats, or something like that. There's going to be this loss of self-regard. He's not accepted by his peers. All right? So he's going to feel uncomfortable. He's going to feel, not welcome, not accepted, unwanted. But if he can go home and get on a computer and play a video game for an hour and a half, it hits all the dopamine centers. He feels good. So he begins to only want to do that which makes him feel good. This is how it happens. This is how it happens. Okay? And then just keep in mind, ya ibadullah, that many times the alternative is suicide. Okay? In an extreme case, the alternative is suicide. What do I mean by that? If a person they feel like they can't be their authentic self, they feel like they're not loved, they feel like they're not accepted, and this has happened from the time they were young up until the time they grow up, they feel bad about themselves. And they feel like, I just don't want to deal with life anymore. I don't want to deal with all this stuff anymore. And they begin to have suicidal thoughts. So then it's like a choice. Do you kill yourself, or do you go down to the liquor store, you buy a $5 bottle of alcohol? That $5 bottle of alcohol will make you feel good for like 3 or 4 hours. You feel euphoric. You feel like you can do anything. Or worse, methamphetamines, or now fentanyl. It gives people a sense of self-regard. Like, no, I am someone. I can accomplish something under the influence of either a chemical or a behavior. All right? So don't look at what's wrong with the behavior. Actually, look at what it's doing for the person. Look at what it does for the person. If the person feels good, okay, why isn't the person feeling good? Why? And then that's what you have to begin to work on. Helping the person to feel better about themselves. All right? All right. I know we're 25 after. What time is the aqama for the adhan for Isha? At 9 o'clock. All right. We got 35 minutes. Okay, let's jump into it. I'm going to give you 3 C's. 3 C's. In English, anyway. In Arabic, it's something else. It's 3 C's. Okay? Of changing behavior. And this is just an outline. But I'm a therapist by trade. I talk to people for a living. I talk to people about their problems. All right? And whenever I am, trying to get to the root of the issue, the first thing that I have to do is to conceptualize their case. I need to understand what's happening with this person. If you want to change your behavior, if you have bad habits that you want to overcome, the first thing that you have to do is you have to first become conscientious of it. That's the first thing. Or in Arabic, you can call it muhasaba. Muhasaba is being hasib over yourself. You begin to take yourself to account by understanding what happened. Why am I doing this? What do I get out of this? Right? And then there's, you just understand the case. Because if you can't name it, you can't change it. If you can't name your problem, if you can't name why you got caught up this way, then you cannot change it. So the first thing is understand what's going on with you. All right? Some of the early Muslims, they used to say, "Man arafa nafsahu faqad arafa rabbuhu." Like, whoever knows themselves, first, you have to know yourself. Then you can go on to know your Lord. It starts with knowing yourself. So you have to understand, you have to know your egotistical nature, your pettiness, your vanity, your shortcomings, right? It's through that lens that you have a better understanding about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you have bodily desires. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have bodily desires. Laysa kamithlihi shay, He says in the Quran. There's nothing that you can compare unto Him. He has no likeness. First, you have to know yourself. Okay? And you can just start by just knowing your bodily desires. What is it that your eyes desire to look at? What is it that your ears desire to listen to? What is it that your tongue desires to say to other people? Many times in a derisive way, putting them down, calling them names, blaming them, judging them, criticizing them. We love to do this because it makes us feel better about ourselves. If you can look down on someone and say, you're like this, you have this problem, you have this problem. We feel better about ourselves. Okay? So your butt, your stomach, of course, the private parts, the hands and the feet. This is where you start. Just understand, where are you at with these things? All right? Understand where you are. All of their machinations. Because before you can move on to the ego, right? We're just at the levels of shahawat. We're just at the level of the bodily desires, shahawat. Before you can go on to hawa, right? The mental dysfunctions. Before you can go on to that, you have to just conceptualize your body. What are you doing with your body? If you're not able to just conceptualize what you're doing with your body, then know that shaitan is going to show up and begin to justify it in the form of reason. All right? So, just for the sake of, just making it easy. Normally the ulama, they break down shahawat, right? These are the bodily desires. Not always, because sometimes they're interchangeable, but I want to make it easy for this lecture. So if you say shahawat, bodily desires. Hawa is mental dysfunction. The way you think about things, your worldview. I'll give you an example. If you think that you are better than someone or worse than someone because of the color of your skin, this is hawa. You perceive reality incorrectly. If you think that how much money you have makes you better than someone, you don't perceive reality correctly. If you think where you were born makes you better or worse than someone, You don't perceive reality correctly. This is hawa. This is just your passionate self. You know, this is not reality. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَأَكْرَمَكُمْ إِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The most noble of you in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those who have the most taqwa. He doesn't mention your money. He doesn't mention your skin color. He doesn't mention the language that you speak. None of that matters to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not when it comes to preference. وَأَكْرَمَكُمْ إِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. So you see, you have your bodily desires that you have to put in check. And then you have your mental that you have to put in check. Okay? So you have, you have your hawa, how you perceive the world, how you understand the world. Or you have your shahawat, the bodily desires. All right? Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu an, in more than one narration, he used to say, Hasibu qabla an tahasabu. Take yourselves to account. Look at yourself. Look at what you're doing. You know, the hasib, the muhtasib is like the one who in the marketplace, they go and they check the weights and they make sure that everything is functioning properly in the marketplace. So no one is cheated, no one is hurt, things like that. Right? Right? The hasib is like the accountant. They look at all your debits and they look at all of your credits so that you know exactly where you are in your business. That's what you have to do with yourself. This is just conceptualizing. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to be one of the hardest things you've ever had to do. It's very, very difficult to look at the self and actually say, you have a problem. It's hard to do that sometimes. Because we have all kind of excuses for ourselves, we don't have excuses for other people. So sometimes you have to bring somebody in, someone who knows you very, very well. They know all of your faults. They know all of your shortcomings. They know that you're stingy. They know that you're arrogant. They know, and you have to listen to them when they tell you, you need to fix this. You need to fix that. Just conceptualizing ourselves sometimes is very difficult. But it's the first step, the very, very first step to changing behavior. The first step. All right? Now, we're still at conceptualizing. Just conceptualizing. After you begin to reflect on your habits, you decide which one are you going to change. And normally just start with one. It's too hard to change all of them at once. You say this is the main one, and how you know that this is the main one that you need to work on is because just visualize yourself in 5 years. And you say, you know what? If I stay like this for 5 years, I'm going to be a monster. My appetites are going to be monstrous. When you recognize that that is the one, then you begin to change that one. Just visualize for 5 years. If I keep overspending, if I keep watching too much Netflix, if I keep delaying getting my PhD, whatever it is, just visualize 5 years. If I don't change this, I'm going to be a mess. That's the one that you need to change. And when you realize that, you always start with istighfar. Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Because it's a type of ghafla. If you know that you need to change something, you haven't changed it, for sure it's going to interfere with your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you do this muhasabah of yourself, say, I need to change this, I'm going to start working on this. Now, that's the first C. In English, conscientiousness. That's the first C. Now we're going to the second C, which is going to be commitment. And you're going to need commitment to change habits. You're going to need commitment. If Ramadan doesn't teach us anything else, Ramadan teaches us that we can do better. Right? We fast all day during Ramadan. We're thinking good thoughts. We're trying to overcome certain behaviors. We give up certain behaviors for Ramadan. So most of us we can do better. We can give up certain habits. Okay? We can do it. So don't let yourself tell you, no, I just can't do it. That's a lie. That's a lie. You can do it. Okay? So the second thing is make a commitment. Making a commitment is the essence of what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said when he says, "Innamal a'malu binniyat." That actions are according to their intentions. You have to make a strong intention. You have to make a super strong intention. And that should motivate you to finish what you committed to. Any college students in here? Who's the college students? No college students? I know you're a college student. You're a college student? Which college are you going to? SMC? Santa Monica College. Okay, good. When you graduate from there, what college do you want to go to? Which one? So how many colleges do you think you're going to apply? How many universities are you going to apply to? Most of them. Did you hear what he said? He said most of them. This right here is commitment. He already knows in his mind that he's not going to just apply to one because he might get denied. And then you have to wait a whole nother year before you apply to another one. Am I right? You've already calculated that. So he's like, I'm going to apply to all of them. And then I'm going to take my pick based upon whoever accepts me. They accept, this one accepts me, this one accepts me, this one accepts me. I'm going to pick the best one I think is best for me. You see, this is niyyah. This is a strong intention. And when you're thinking about changing, you have to have that same level of commitment. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to change. More than that, know this. It is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the sunnah of Allah. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah does not change your condition. Allah will not change your condition until you begin to change your own self. If you think that you can just stand still, you have to do no work, and it's just going to happen on its own, you are mistaken. In more than one ayah in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He lets us know, you got to do work. You got to put in work. أَلَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانُ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, does mankind get other than what he strives for? You're going to have to put in work. You want to change your situation? And listen, it goes both ways, the ulama say. If you have a good state, everything, you're functioning properly, you're doing what you're supposed to do, everything's going along well, Allah will not change that until you do something to change it. You begin fumbling around, you begin committing haram, you begin doing all these things, right? You begin doing all of these things, then Allah will change your state. But if you want to go from bad to better, you got to put in work. And He won't change your situation until you begin to do things that changes it. And then we have all of the hadith Qudsi, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He promises His help. If you just move out, if you do something, Allah, He will help you. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, if you, things like, he said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, for example, if you move a hand span towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a hand span, this span right here, from the end of my hand to my forefinger is a hand span. If you do this much work, moving to better yourself, moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will move to you the whole arm's length. If you begin to walk towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will run to you. That's His promise. And of course, no one, a Muslim, when they think about changing and becoming better, it's so that they can earn the rahmah of Allah. They can earn the fadl of Allah. They can earn the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So make that part of your niyyah. Right? Oh Allah, help me in this affair. And then you move out. You do the things that you're supposed to do. Okay? So once you have decided that who is the person that you want to be, who do you want to be? You prove it to yourself with small wins. Small wins. I'll give you an example. If a client comes to me and they say, I do online gambling. I'm addicted to online gambling. I'm like, okay, all right. How much time do you spend a day gambling? He'll say, oh, maybe an hour. I spend an hour doing that. I'm like, okay. For this week, I just want you to do it for 50 minutes. 50 minutes. And then we're going to walk it down from there. You see, this is harm reduction. This is the method that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used in the Quran when He wanted to get rid of drinking and gambling. It was not forbidden all at once. And Aisha radiallahu anha, our mother, right? She said that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had forbade drinking from the time of Mecca, like as soon as revelation came, drinking was forbidden, the Arabs would never have been able to leave alcohol. So that's not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did it. The first thing He did was give education about it. This is the handiwork of shaitan. He wants to sow enmity between you using gambling and drinking and divining of arrows, these type of omens, reading omens. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't come to the prayer when you are intoxicated. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then He said, fashtanibu. In Medina, it was revealed. In Medina, fashtanibu. Like just give it up, get away from it. This is the same method that an addiction counselor uses. If he's smart, because if he understands human nature. Most people, 95% of the human population, cannot just give something up and just walk away from it all at once. But all of us can walk something down slowly, slowly, slowly. All of us can do that. Especially if you have someone holding you accountable. Especially if you have someone, paying attention to you. All right? So remember, the first C is MashaAllah. They are awake, MashaAllah. Right? Conscientiousness, just muhasaba. You are conceptualizing yourself. You need to come to know yourself. Believe me, most people, they don't know themselves. They don't know what motivates them. They don't know, what bad habits they learned from their parents. They don't know who they really are. They don't. Believe me when I tell you this. I have thousands and thousands of hours of talking to people who think they know themselves. They don't know themselves. And as you begin listening to them, you begin breaking down their life and pulling things apart. You know what I mean? They're like on auto mode. They just do what they do because that's what they learn from their parents. That's what they learn from their environment. That's what's most comfortable. But they don't really, really know themselves. So I'll give an example. Right? Anybody here from New York? From New York? Right? So the New Yorkers have a certain accent. They have a certain way of speaking. Right? And you go into some neighborhoods and everybody speaks like that. And nobody thinks that they have an accent. Somebody has to come from outside of New York and say, why do y'all talk like that? Right? If you go down south, deep south, Mississippi, Arkansas, places like that, and you listen to the way that they speak, they don't think that they speak with an accent, but they speak the same way everybody around them speaks. And you can use this example wherever you go. I've been all over the world. You can go to Morocco, you listen to their Arabic accent. And then if you go to Palestine or Egypt, they'll say, oh, the Moroccans don't speak Arabic. Right? Because people are used to themselves, the way they are, the way they speak, the way they see the world, the way they understand the world. And they think, oh, that's reality. Most of us, we don't know ourselves. And so this is one of the reasons why Rasulullah said, Al-mu'min mir'atu mu'min. The believer is a mirror for the other believer. What do you do in a mirror? You look in it and you fix yourself. Say, oh wait, let me clean myself up. Let me do this, let me do that. So you always pick a friend who's stronger than you, more guided than you, has more taqwa than you, so that he can be a mirror for you. When you see him, you know, oh, I got to get myself together. I got to do better. I must do better. Okay? So first, know yourself. Take time to try and understand yourself. Then, make a strong niyyah, strong intention to change for the better. And do what you have to do to change. If you read some of the books, on tazkiyah, there were people when people wanted to change, they took extreme measures. Extreme measures. I read one story of a brother. His he had an anger problem. He wanted to overcome his anger. So he went and he hired someone who would not back down from him, and he paid him to follow him around while insulting him. So he would follow him around and say to him, Ya kalb, oh dog, Ya hayawan, oh animal, right? Ya khanzir, oh swine, you are a person of swine. Like just following him around in the marketplace, calling him names, so that he had to swallow his anger. Right? He paid him all the money up front so that the man wouldn't stop doing his job. Even when he's like, okay, it's enough. But the man has already received the money, he's going to do the job. This is somebody that's serious about changing himself. He's serious about changing himself. What are you willing to do to change? It's a question you have to ask yourself. What are you willing to do to overcome yourself? Okay? So conscientiousness, and then commitment or niyyah. Niyyah. And remember, Allah will not change your situation. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. This is the promise of Allah. He is not going to change your situation. He's not going to change your state. You have to begin to change yourself, and then you'll receive the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lastly, we only have about 13 minutes left. Lastly, you have to commit. Commitment. You must commit. I'm sorry. Consistency. You have to be consistent. They came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they asked Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, what is the most beloved deed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And he said, it is the one that you do often. Walau qallah, even if it is small. Even if it is small. So, and that's why I was saying earlier, anybody can start small and then get to where they want. You can cross this whole continent one step after the other, one step after the other, one step after the other. But you got to take the first step. And then you got to be consistent over and over, taking all those steps until you get to New York City. We'll escort the brother back home, mashallah. Right? Okay. Has anybody read that book, Atomic Habits? Atomic Habits. Excellent book. I recommend. Okay. This is an excellent book. Because what he's doing, he's taking empirical science, like that which has been measured and studied and proven, and he's telling you how to change habits. And he just confirms what Rasulullah ﷺ said in this hadith. That's all he's doing, is confirming it. Rasulullah ﷺ is telling us Allah, He loves the deed that you do over and over and over and over and over again, even if it's small. That's what Allah, He loves. Allah doesn't want you to go out and conquer the world all at once. He wants you to conquer yourself first and foremost. Conquer yourselves. Right? In that book, he talks about the British bicycling team, the Olympic team. The Olympic bicycling team, the British, they used to be like the worst team. And when they went to the Olympics, they always came in, second to last, like they were terrible. So they brought somebody on to say, okay, you guys want to change? You are going to just change 1% a day. Just 1%. And they looked at all of the aspects of doing bicycling. How much muscle tone did you need? What was the good food that you needed? How many carbohydrates did you need? What was the aerodynamic clothing that you needed? What was the weight of the bike? They looked at every single thing. And they said, we're just going to change 1% a day. 1%. Over a year, that's 40%. Your improvement will be 40% over a year. And eventually, because of that, they became the #1 bicycling team in the Olympics, and they held it for like a decade. By just 1% a year. So now let's think about that in terms of ibadah. In terms of ibadah, right? So just think about it like this. If you do 100 istighfar a day, 100 istighfar. But eventually you want to be like Abu Huraira radiallahu an. Anybody know how many istighfar he used to do a day before he went to sleep at night? Abu Huraira radiallahu an, he used to do 10,000 istighfar. 10,000. He had a thread that he used to tie knots in. And he put 100 all the way around. And then he would go over it until he reached 10,000. That's what the hadith says. Or the athar. That's what it says. So if you say to yourself, you know what, I just want to get up to 5,000 a night. Just improve 1% a day. 1%. So what does 1% look like? 1% looks like 1. You do 100 already. Today, just do 101. All right? Tomorrow, do 102. The next day, do 103. Of course, you can do more. Right? You can do 100, do 500. But I'm just giving an example. After a year, you will have improved in your istighfar 40%. 40%. Now, the opposite is also true, and this is the problem. If you don't do anything, or if you do less than that, like if you just do less than 1% every day, eventually you reach 0. You're not doing anything. And this is the trick of shaitan, this is the trick of the nafs. The trick of shaitan, the trick of the nafs, the lower commanding self, is it goes to extremes. On one hand, it wants you to do so little, doesn't even matter. Not going to change you. You're doing so little, it doesn't matter. And on the other hand, it wants you to go to the extreme and say, I'm going to do 10,000 tonight. You might do it, and then you might do it tomorrow, but probably by the end of the week, you're not going to be doing it because you don't have the habit. So really what you're doing, you're just building up the habit to do what Abu Huraira radiallahu anh used to do. 10,000 istighfar. 10,000 istighfar. We think we're doing something when we do it 33 times or 100 times. We think we're doing something. Abu Huraira, 10,000 times a night. All right? So, consistency. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He, you know what I mean? Well, let me say this first. One of the things that I normally see why people fail at changing their habits is because they only look at the habit that they want to change, but they don't look at the systems that they have placed around the habit. So say, for example, say a person watches too much television and they know that they need to stop watching television. And I have a client like this. Like she has a problem binge watching Netflix. In order to get her to begin to shift her thinking, to shift her, to get out of that mode, I was like, okay, where are the TVs at in the house? She has a TV in the front room, the dining room, the kitchen, her bedroom, right? She has a TV everywhere, all over the house, to support the habit, you see? So I told her, listen, you got to clear those TVs out. It was one of the hardest things that she ever had to do. Get rid of those TVs. You can't just say, okay, I want to change my habit on sheer willpower. You have to change the system around the habit also. So this is something that, it goes with it, whatever. If a person says, oh, I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay. Think about how you gain that 15 pounds. And you've got to change that system around that. I want to stop becoming angry with my children. Whatever. Okay? There's a system, I can guarantee you. There's a system that goes along with it. You have to change the system, and you have to change and changing the system is what will help you to change the habit. Lastly, I'm going to end with this, and then if anyone has any questions. All right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has explained to us in the Quran that if you do this mujahada, that He will open the way for you. This mujahada is spiritual struggle. You're struggling against yourself. Right? Hassan al-Basri, he used to say to his students, Aduwaka, your greatest enemy, nafsaka allati bayna jambayk. It is your own self that lies between your two sides. That's what Hassan al-Basri used to say to his students. Like, don't look out before you look in. The enemy inside is bigger than the enemy outside. And when you conquer that, when you conquer the inside, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open everything for you. This is His promise. In this verse, He says, الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لِيَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Right? Those who they strive in our way, we will guide them to the subulana. We will guide them to those pathways of success. This is the promise of Allah. But again, you gotta be striving. You gotta be striving. You gotta want to be better. Don't be satisfied with the self. Don't be satisfied with the self. So I'm going to pause right here. I'm going to lastly just say, become an expert at governing yourself. Become an expert at governing yourself. Then you can govern others. Right? Then you can be Khalifatul Ard. Are there any questions? Yes, young man. So you have shahawat, which is like the bodily desires. We only want to eat pizza every day, right? Right? We only want to listen to music every day, right? That's shahawat, everything that pleases the bodily senses. And then you have hawa, which is the way you see the world, right? And both of them have to be adjusted, right? And brought back in line with reality. Okay? Very smart question, young man. Very smart question, yes. Oof, he wants us to be here for another hour. MashaAllah. No, it's an excellent question, right? It's an excellent question. So very quickly, I would say, I know everybody's starting to come in for salat. So I would just, very quickly, I would just say, to get to know yourself, like I said, you start with your bodily desires, right? Which ones of them are not under your control? Which of them do you want to change? All right? What about your hawa? Like, this is where you start. All right? There's much more things to do. And trauma has a huge role. All right? Trauma has a huge role. But that we got to save that for another time, inshallah. All right? Any more questions? I'm getting ready to salam out. I think he's going to call the adhan. وإياكم وإياكم سبحان الله وبحمده أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله